Hello and welcome. In this video we're going to be looking at everything to do with selling game keys, like Steam keys, in-game items and actual game accounts on eBay. Now, I've actually made 3 videos along this topic in the past, about a year ago, and to date they're actually my most commented videos and I get questions about them every week, sometimes every day. So the idea of this video is to kind of update them and answer a lot of the questions that I've been getting. From those previous videos, most of the topics that people asked questions on were things like, how do I not get banned from eBay? Or how do I not get banned from the game? How do I, what category should I list the items in on eBay? And also, how do I handle the shipping on eBay? And that's something that's changed recently. So we're going to go into all of those, and I'm also going to do some examples of how I would actually list this kind of item if I was doing it today. If you have seen some of the previous videos, then you'll actually know that I don't list this kind of item anymore for various reasons, which I'll go into the video. But I'm going to go through it, and I'm going to do an example of one game, one account, let's say, and one kind of in-game item. In order to not get banned from eBay, there are actually 3 policies we need to look at. Most people think you'll need to look at one, which is this one, the electronically delivered items policy, but there's actually 3. We'll go into all 3 of them right now. With the electronically delivered items policy, the eBay one is a bit backwards, to be honest. It has improved, but it's reading between the lines of the policy. They don't generally like digital items because of the number of scams they get. So first thing you read is electronically delivered items need to be listed in the everything else or information products category in the classified ad format. So anyone who's ever listed anything in the classified ads format on eBay, I mean, it's quite an unusual format. Most people only ever do auctions and buy it now. The last time I listed anything in classified ads, I think it was a car, and I think I had to pay like nearly £10. I don't even know what it is today. But basically that is a showstopper for most people listing anything because it's just prohibitively expensive. And so this is kind of a cop out from eBay, really, just to say, yeah, we don't like you doing it. Unlike, say, like Etsy have embraced selling digital things, but I won't cover that in this because they're not much better for selling this kind of thing. But moving on, electronically delivered items that are not allowed include software keys that the seller is not authorized to sell. So that's a big one, but we can potentially get around it. The next one is digital codes on movies. That's not relevant. Exceptions to the policy include electronically delivered, and the important one is online gaming virtual items. Essentially, that saves gaming items, and you can argue it kind of saves selling accounts. This one is a bit tricky. This one is the software keys the seller is not authorized to sell. There is a way around it, which I'll go into. So the risk with this policy and with this particular part of the policy is that eBay can ask you to prove that you are authorized to sell the things you're selling, and that usually means providing an invoice from like a wholesaler or something, and showing that you've got a business account. So either you can say, well, I'm selling my own things, and that's fine. But if you're doing this properly and you're making lots of money off it, then you ought to be a business and you ought to be able to prove that you can sell these things. So the way that I would get around this, if I was doing it, is to actually probably have a registered business and try and get a wholesale deal. When I was doing this last time, I was drop shipping, I actually got all my listings taken down by eBay. But we'll come on to that now. But essentially, this doesn't stop a lot of people. If you go on eBay right now, I mean, the Steam summer sale's just been on. There's 7,400 plus listings if you type in Steam key on eBay, and that's eBay UK. It doesn't stop people doing it, but it's an avenue for eBay to basically take down all your listings. I think if you're not annoying eBay and you're not getting scammed all the time, then you should be okay. But in theory, you have to then, because of that, you kind of need to list, to avoid breaking eBay T's and C's. If you want to sell Steam keys, in theory, you need to put them in everything else, information products, which is bollocks. But I'll show you how I would do it later on. We'll come onto that later on. Now we're going to look at the drop shipping policy. So the drop shipping policy has changed since I last looked at it, in that they've taken all the useful information out of it. So essentially, you are allowed to do dropshipping on eBay. The catch is listing an item on eBay and then purchasing it from another retailer or marketplace that ships directly to the customer is not allowed on eBay. So when I was selling Steam keys, I was going to a third-party website and I would find Steam keys and I would basically take the description and the photos and I would list them. So I wouldn't buy any games up front. And what happened was I kept getting scammed, and eBay kept having to intervene, and eventually because I wasn't scamming anyone, and I was, my listings looked very good and I was very honest, but because they kept having to intervene, they just sent me an email and said, look, show me that you can sell these things, show me your receipt. Because I was buying them after I'd sold them, I was in violation of this policy. What it used to say, I'm sure what it used to say was you had to be able to prove that you were a wholesaler, and it actually gave you a bit of advice on how to get around it, which was basically set up a company, find a wholesaler, buy some stuff from them, get some invoices, make yourself look like a proper company, or even better yet, be a proper company. It doesn't say that anymore. They've just kind of taken all the useful stuff out of the way, and they just send you to the user agreement, which doesn't actually tell you anything useful either. It just tells you what you can't do. If you are going to sell Steam keys, this is one of the advantages of the digital products, is that you don't necessarily need to buy them before you sell them, except that this policy says that you do. So this can be a tricky one to get around, but like I said, if you set yourself up as a company, or that kind of thing, then you might be able to get around it. Or you stay small. That's the other option. You stay very small and you stay off eBay's radar and you don't get scammed every 5 minutes. And the last policy, which is the one that's been stitching people up with Roblox. People, one of the videos I made, I was selling pets from Pet Simulator and gems from Pet Simulator. People, after I made the video about that, were telling me that they were getting Vero'd off of eBay and like properly banned, like not even. And the thing with getting banned on eBay is eBay knows so much about you. They know your IP, they know your bank details, they know essentially the serial number of windows you've logged in with. If you get banned from eBay, you have to basically buy a new computer, move house, or get quite a sophisticated IP, like dedicated IP and set up, and basically pretend to live in a different part of the country and use a relative's bank details, and the lengths you have to go to get around getting banned, like properly banned on eBay, are extraordinary. So basically that's one of the main reasons that I don't do any of this anymore. I sell Warhammer. That's what I'm doing at the moment. I sell physical bits of plastic, and before that I was selling trading cards, and I haven't done any of this for a year. And this is a big part of why, because don't get me wrong, people do this every day. People sell. You can go on eBay right now and search for Pet Simulator pets and Pet Simulator gems, World of Warcraft coins, gold, whatever. There's tons of them, and people make a business out of it, and they've been doing it for months, if not years. But you have to be careful, and this Vero essentially is the verified rights owner policy, which is the copyright, the owner of thing that you're selling. So for instance, with Roblox, if you use like Roblox logos, or if you use, say, like Pet Simulator art or Pet Simulator brands, things like that, or whatever you're selling, if you put the logo of that company in, they can potentially get your listing taken down on Vero, and the kind of the penalties for the penalty for me crossing the dropshipping policy. The penalty was like I got all my listings taken down, and I think I might have been suspended for 2 days, maybe not even that. But people have been banned for crossing this one. So you've got to be really careful. People sometimes put phrases in their listing titles like compatible with Pet Simulator, things like that. It's a bit hit and miss, and I think it depends what you're selling. So some companies are hotter than others about actually getting people taken down. So I didn't have any issues with this when I was selling Pet Simulator stuff, but I have seen other people having issues. And the other thing is, okay, the next question I got was, what category should I list my eBay my items in? So this is going to be slightly different depending on what you're listing, but essentially, if you're going to sell a Steam key, which is effectively a game, then I would sell it in video games. Technically, according to this, we should list it in everything else, information products, and we should use the classified ad format. But like I said before, that's complete bollocks, and we're not going to do it. So I've started a listing, and what I've done is I've just typed, I said Warhammer Total War Steam key. Straight away, it puts it in video games. I can't think of anywhere else that you would put it. Okay, yeah, technically you should put it there, but no, we're not going to do that because that's stupid. So let's say I wasn't listing a Steam key, and I was listing, let's say, a Fortnite account. Then I would come to, where's the category? Right, so I'd edit. For anything else, essentially for any in-game items or any accounts, instead of saying it's a game, I would say it's actually video game merchandise. Right, okay, so we'll go to so in all categories, we'll scroll down to video games and consoles, and then we should get video game merchandise. So this is what I've seen other people listing, whether it's currency like gems or gold or diamonds, or weapons, armor, that kind of thing. This is where I would put everything else that's not a Steam key. The other big question that I got was how to handle delivery. So I'm going to show you on my account. I think other people's accounts, and I also think it depends where you live, but other people have different options. So I've actually got a business account, so it's a little bit different for me. I'll set it up as if I'm doing a new postage policy. So create. If you just have a regular account, you don't necessarily, it's not this complicated. It's pretty simple. The things you will see should look something like this. So what I would do is I would just pick some kind of local express. You want eBay to know that it's getting there fast because it's a digital delivery. So I'd pick something and I'd do free P&P. So first class, dispatch time, same working day. You can tweak that if you want. Whatever you do, for the love of God, do not pick global shipping program, because if you do, I've actually just made a video about the global shipping program, but essentially this is only for physical items, and eBay will expect you to send a physical item to a UK shipping centre, and depending on where your buyer lives, it will charge them an arm and a leg for a physical item to be sent, wherever, somewhere around the world. So the issue I just had in the previous video was about something I'd sent to America, and that guy paid £25 for my item and probably the same again for postage. So do not click that, whatever you do. And for international postage, again, I would do flat, same cost. This is if you want to get maximum exposure. The other option is to do local collection, but I don't think that's a good idea. So I would just do worldwide. I would just pick express international postage, and I'd do free, wherever the free button is. There ought to be a free. Let's do 0. 0. And that's what I would do. I wouldn't bother with tables. I wouldn't bother with an exclusion list unless if you've been scammed 3 times by someone from a very specific country, then maybe exclude that country. But that's how I would set it up. The problem that people have been having recently is that they don't get this option. So we're going to cancel that. And to resolve that, you actually need to go back out into eBay. The problem people have been having is that, particularly on personal accounts, basically eBay demands to know how heavy the package is and how big it is. And that's because they're I think it's a United States thing, but they're part of a discounted eBay shipping program. So it's a domestic shipping thing. Even if you don't charge the buyer postage, eBay wants to charge you postage or shipping, whatever you want to call it. So the way you get around this is you come up to here where your name is, and you go to account settings, and you come down to postage preferences. So I don't have this option because I don't live in the States, and we don't have the ability to have this discounted eBay shopping. Please excuse my dog. So I'm enrolled in Click and Collect. I'm enrolled in the GSP, the Global Shipping Program. I think if you live in the United States and you're having an issue where it demands to know how heavy the package is and that kind of thing, I suspect you'll see something under here that will say something like discounted eBay shipping program. So you need to unenroll yourself out of that, and what you should then be able to do is sell things and put completely free postage. So that's my solution. The other option is you can just do local collection only. However, there is an issue with that in that sometimes people, in order to collect the item, the buyer is given a code by eBay, and they don't always know they've got a code, or they don't know. A lot of times people have no idea what they're doing when they're buying these things. They're buying a huge cat for their child who plays on Roblox, who is 6. They don't know. They don't know what they're doing. They don't know what they're buying, and they don't know about all this kind of stuff. So they're not expecting a code, and they won't always give you the code. So sometimes eBay doesn't necessarily register it and things like that. So the other side of the delivery thing is if you're selling something more expensive, say like you want to record that transaction as it goes through, When I say that, I mean you want to actually record yourself sending it to the person or transferring it to them, so they can't then say it wasn't delivered. So I'm going to show you what I mean. To make this video, I'm using a thing called Streamlabs, free, and you can make videos with it, and it's great. So essentially, you want to make a little, for anything I would say over £10, you want to make a video of yourself and just save it, because essentially someone, I think up to 6 months later, could do a credit card chargeback on you. So just save that and keep it tucked away. eBay probably won't be that much help to you, honestly, because they unless you've got a really well established business account and the other person who's kind of got a brand new account, then eBay is going to trust the other person. Next, we're going to look at actually listing things and how to go about making listings, and what I would do for, we're going to do an example for a Steam key, a game account, and an in-game item. Okay, so for the first example, we said we were going to try and sell a Steam key. So if I was going to do this, honestly, this is to be fair, it's the first thing I actually tried, albeit pre-COVID. I think COVID actually, because COVID increased the demand for games so much, I think it kind of wiped out a lot of the opportunities. And I think more people discovered this method, both for themselves and for just generally for selling. So this is probably the least likely one that I would do, just because also it's the easiest one to get banned for, I would say. But we said we're going to do it, so I'll show you what I would do. So to get around essentially to limit my exposure to this policy, which is the software keys you're not authorized to sell, I would go to eBay and I would look for wholesale Steam keys. I have actually tried to apply for a wholesale account in the past for these websites. Now you see, I've just given my dog some biscuits and it's moaning. It's still complaining. So this would be my best bet for trying to get a wholesale Steam license, or just something. What you actually want is a video game retailer, a video game wholesaler, to give you an account and give you an invoice. So you'd probably be as well, if you're going to do it, I would do it properly, and I would actually make a limited company. That's what you do in the UK. It only costs like £13, and maybe if you're thinking, well, I'm 16 and I'm only going to do it for a few months, like maybe don't bother, do something different, or just don't do it properly. But if you are going to do it properly, then that's what I would do. I would actually make a little company, and I would try and get a wholesale account, and I'd maybe, let's say if you get a wholesale account with some company, you're going to have to spend £150 maybe on your first order. You buy some keys or whatever, or you buy some games and do it that way. That's one way of doing it. Another way would just be, and then what I would do is I would go to somewhere like G2A, and this is what I used to do. And you come in here. I mean, these guys are so legit. Robert Lewandowski is fronting them, but and I would look for cheap keys. Essentially, don't go for the newest, shiniest game, because the only people who buy those off eBay are scammers, and they're going to scam you. So literally every key I ever sold for more than £10 was to a scammer, and I got scammed. So the other thing I'd look for is DLCs. And what I did sell the most of were things like Crusader Kings 2 DLCs. I mean, I think there's a Crusader Kings 3 now. City Skylines. There are some games, particularly strategy games and things like that, where unless you're into that kind of thing, you won't really. There you go. There's City Skylines. Unless you're into that game, you probably wouldn't know that's got about 50 different DLCs. Also, there's a new version. There's a City Skylines 2 now, which hasn't got quite as many DLCs. But there are lots of games with a shit ton of DLCs, and they're all, see there, yada yada yada, Call the Wild, and they're all kind of in the kind of £2 to £5 region. So they're great. They're exactly the kind of thing that you want to sell. So I would sell things like that, and I would make sure that you make, let's say, £1 off every sale, and I would list them on eBay. I would let's say, what did we pick? We picked a DLC, didn't we? Okay, I wouldn't pick that game because it looks rubbish. But if you're into hunting, fair play to you. Whatever floats your boat. So what I would do is I would come in and I would get off. I would rinse the photos off that. Be careful when you're scraping websites for stuff. If you do data scraping, because what you'll find is if you go in here and wherever there'll be a description somewhere. What you'll find is if you scoop all that up, somewhere in it there'll be something embedded, which will be about this website, and quite a lot of them do that. And if you just go paste that into eBay, eBay will probably flag it, and it'll, because it'll say something like, "This has been stolen from G2A, and you should spank this seller." So, yeah. So that's essentially what I would do. I would look for cheaper games, cheaper DLCs. Go for the long tail, less risky. If you pick, I don't know about hunting games, but like the kind of people who play games like Warhammer and City Skylines, I would say statistically, I'm not saying that there aren't any scumbags who play those games, of course there are, but just statistically you're less likely to get filthy scammers than you are for the latest £20, £30, £40 game, or more kind of broad appeal games like your Helldivers, your Fortnites, your Call of Duty type games, where there's a real mass appeal. If you go for the niche stuff, the kind of the really nerdy niche appeal, like RimWorld's another one, then I would say you're less likely to get scammed. It's not guaranteed, but less likely. So that's how I would pick my games. I would take photos from somewhere like this, where they're the kind of the official photos, and so I would put them in. I would try and do a decent description, because if you spend a bit of time on it, you will sell several copies of it potentially. You got to assume you're going to sell lots of copies of every game. So that's how I would do it, and essentially I would just build up. I might try doing it on a personal account to begin with, but then I would, if it was working, then I would look at making it a business account. But sell some physical games as well. The more kind of credentials you can kind of show to eBay that you are a legitimate business person, then the less likely you are to get spanked off the platform, and the less likely you are as well to get scammed if you actually use, like, if you put a good description, you say this is digital only, and I know what scammers do, so I'm going to record the transaction, yada yada yada. It also puts people off. It's actually harder to scam people than it used to be. When I was doing it, people were still forced to use PayPal, whereas now you don't have that. So, but I think people's eBay accounts are more secure, I think, anyway. But you can still get scammed, so it is a worry. There's people could just buy and then pretend they never received it. So that's how I would do a Steam key. Like I said, I don't do it anymore, and I probably wouldn't. This would be the least likely of all the things that I would do, just because everything I've just described to you is basically violating the dropshipping policy, unless you become a limited company and find a way to sell things. So yeah, I wouldn't advise it, but that's how I would do it, because people keep asking me. So next we're going to look at selling an account. So selling accounts is a bit different. Basically, you can't buy them from places like G2A. You have to go to places like Player Auctions. Essentially, it's a bit like G2A, except it's for in-game items. So this is also the kind of place I would come if I was going to sell in-game items. Prices here, they are better than on eBay, as in that it's cheaper, but not always, so you've got to be careful, and sometimes you have to buy a lot of whatever it is. But essentially you can come buy a Fortnite account, a Runescape account, whatever. There is plenty of risk with it. I would say the biggest risk is actually getting banned from the game. Games are constantly, all these games are online games, but they're constantly being updated. They're constantly looking for new ways to, they will come and watch a video like this to see what people are doing and how people are basically getting around their detection methods. So yeah, the biggest issue you have is that you buy something. Let's say you come on here and you buy an account and it gets blocked. So essentially the thing that you could buy could get blocked before you sell it, or it could get blocked just afterwards, and then you end up in trouble with eBay. eBay doesn't really have a policy on selling accounts, and you could kind of, essentially, if I was going to sell an account, I wouldn't call it an account. necessarily. Maybe I would, but I would call it, essentially I would imply that I'm selling, it's merchandise, and I'm selling, let's say if it was Fortnite, technically to sell a Fortnite account you've got to sell your whole Epic Games account. I would sell it as being like a massive stash of games, because you know, most people's Epic accounts will have several games in, and put it down that kind of route. So I would probably still leave it in video game merchandise, but from an eBay point of view, basically you want to be coming away from it being a software key, and being online gaming virtual items. So I would probably list all the things, like all the skins. I've got 300 rare Fortnite skins, that kind of thing. So that's how I would approach it. I think that a lot of the tips I've given for selling a game account would also apply to selling in-game items. Again, there are lots of nuances. So, for instance, in RuneScape, I know that you can see trades being done at the Grand Exchange, which is like the it's similar to the World of Warcraft auction house and things like that, where, you know, people dump stuff on the ground. Whereas in World of Warcraft and in some games on Roblox, like Pet Simulator, you can actually send things through the mail. They have like an in-game mail system. Same with like Final Fantasy 14, things like that. So every game has its nuance. The one tip I think that's different from the selling accounts, and the one thing I do tell people when they ask me, is go and have a look on eBay at other people who are selling the same thing as you. And that's probably the first, you know, I probably should have said that earlier, but the reason I'm not going on eBay now, the reason I'm just showing you me playing this game badly, is because I don't want to go on eBay and basically effectively rat out a load of people who are, you know, who are selling things. I don't want to get people into trouble. So, you know, you can go yourself. You can go and, let's say if you've got some World of Warcraft gold you want to sell, you've got an old account, you've got some items in it you want to sell, things like that. Go on eBay and type the thing that you want to sell in and try and buy it. You know, see what it looks like. What do people say? And don't. There's usually a kind of I would say a mixture of sellers. So for things like World of Warcraft gold, there's a couple of companies who their eBay ratings are in the thousands. You know, they're businesses. They've been doing it for years. They don't usually just sell one game. They sell lots of different games. They sell lots of different items. Have a look at what they're doing and what category are they listing it in. What do they put in their description? All that kind of stuff, because you'll find that there'll be some people who've got kind of almost brand new accounts. Maybe they've got 100% feedback, maybe they don't. Quite a lot of them don't, and they're not the people you want to take advice from. They're not the people you want to look at and copy. You want to look at, you know, find someone who's got a very professional looking listing, who's got a good track record, and see what they're doing and what they're not doing as well. If you were thinking of doing something and they don't do it that way, ask yourself, you know, why aren't they doing it that way? That's all I can say really, is, you know, have a look at what other people are doing. The last thing to say was, you know, maybe don't do it. I tried doing lots of things and I don't do any of them now. The best advice I've heard in business, or some of the best advice I've heard for a long time, and I've heard several people say it as well, is play the long game. Think about it long term. So if you don't think you can be doing it in 2 years time or 5 years time, maybe don't do it at all. Okay, it's different if you're like, now I'm making this video, it's the summertime, maybe you're 14 and you've got the summer off school and you're thinking, what can I do? I want to make some money. Like, fair enough, good for you, give it a try. Maybe do something different. You can make, you know, there's, I would say, creative things you can do where you can still make money, you know, like learn how to use Blender, or maybe instead of playing this game, go to Roblox, but actually go to Roblox Studio and make a game or something, you know, and because you can make money that way. There are, again, you might need to pretend to be your dad or something, but there are other ways of, I would say, doing something more positive. When I was playing this game, I think this is Roblox, this is old school RuneScape. I decided that I was going to play this game and I was going to try. One of the things I do like about this game is that, actually, there's lots of things I like about this game. But one of the things I like about it is the fact that you can, if you haven't got any money, you can start as a free to play and you can earn in-game gold. You can see down here, and you can actually buy basically the premium access. It's called the bond in the game if you've got enough gold. And when I did the video about botting about a year ago, this bond would cost, like in this game, so I've got like 60,000 gold and I've probably got maybe I've got like 200,000 gold in total in all my gear at this point in the game, doing free to play. The bond was something like 8 million then. Now it's like 15 or 16. The inflation is absolutely shocking. All this kind of buying and selling of gold does affect things. And even like over 10 years ago, it was 12, 13, probably, yeah, over 12 years ago when I was playing World of Warcraft, you know, it was the same with that. You know, and I'm sure it still is. The gold sellers were just off the chain, you know, and you could... Essentially, that's my take on everything. Is, I suppose my ultimate advice is don't do it. Do something else. Don't risk your eBay account. Don't, you know, go make money some other way. But drop me a comment. Let me know what you think. Let me know what your experiences are. Have you tried selling stuff online? Are you thinking about selling stuff online? You know, in-game items. You know, what kind of problems have you had? Have you been banned? Because I got, like I said, I got messages from lots of people who got banned, particularly with Vero. So thanks for watching, and I hope this cleared up some comments. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video.